ਇੰਡੋ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਚੈਂਬਰ ਆਫ ਕਾਮਰਸ ਦੀ ਤਰਫ ਤੋਂ ਫਾਇਰ ਚੈਟ ਰੱਖੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਅਨੀਤਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਟ੍ਰੇਜਰੀ ਬੋਰਡ ਹੈ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਨੰਦ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਦੇ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵਾਪਸ ਲੈ ਲਈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਲੀਡਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਉਹ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੂੰ ਸੈੱਲ ਆਊਟ ਸਿੰਘ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ ਸਟੰਟਮੈਂਟ ਸਿੰਘ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਟੰਟ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਜਨਵਰੀ 'ਚ। ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਅਨੀਤਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ, ਐਕਸਟੋਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ, ਕਿ ਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨਲ ਕੋਡ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਫੋਰਡ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਤਰਫ ਤੋਂ। ਸੋ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਰੋਲ ਐਂਡ ਬਾਲ ਦੀ ਤਰਫ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਫੈਡਰਲ, ਫੈਡਰਲ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ, ਤੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਟਕ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਅਨੀਤਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਸਵਾਲ ਜਵਾਬ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਟਾਈਮ ਮਿਲੇਗਾ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਟ੍ਰੇਜਰੀ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਮਤਲਬ ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਮੰਤਰੀ, ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਅਨੀਤਾ ਆਨੰਦ। ਮਿਸਟਰ ਆਨੰਦ, the situation which we see in Canada right now, many Canadians, they are in anger. What is going on around with this? Because Jagmeet Singh took sport back. He was your ally. So how you see the situation at present?
Well, you know, we've got a lot of work to do. We did see interest rates go down yesterday, but Canadians need support from their government, and that's exactly what we're doing, what I'm doing from a Treasury Board perspective. I'm working on reducing red tape for Canadian businesses, not only right here in Canada, but also cross-border. And I'm also making sure that we have resilient supply chains and also creating a working group on productivity in the public sector. So there's work to do to strengthen our economy. We know that we have the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7, but this is a time where Canadians need support. That's why we have dental care, pharmacare, supports for seniors, as well as the Canada Child Benefit and $10 a day childcare. Those are the types of initiatives that Canadians have asked for and that we're working on.
What is the reason that NDP took sport back and NDP Jagmeet Singh, they are criticizing the government outside the parliament? Inside he is sporting. Do you think that's a hypocrisy?
I have really no knowledge of the reasoning behind Mr. Singh's decisions. My focus and our government's focus is on Canadians and supporting Canadians during difficult times, and that's why we are here with supports for seniors, for families, for Gen X and Gen Z, and we will always support Canadians wherever we are.
Minister, if we talk about the crime across Canada, the crime wave is there. Today in Peel region and here we saw 4 incidents of a crime. Shootings, extortions, car thefts and all the things.
Yes.
There is a disconnect between the provincial, the federal government, because the provincial says it's up to the federal says it's the provincial, make more judges, what Canadians should do. And there is no changes in the criminal code which Premier Ford is asking, get a changes in the criminal code. Canadians are struggling and politicians are doing their politics.
I agree that we need to work together to solve a problem that is affecting communities, especially in the GTA, like Peel and Halton, including my own community of Oakville. And that is why I am reaching out to all levels of government to ensure that we are all doing whatever we can. We have amendments to the criminal code on the table. That isn't enough. We need to strengthen our court system and ensure that we have vibrant courts and provincial court judges who are largely responsible for the bail process to be in place.
Is the responsibility of the provincial court, not the federal?
Primarily, bail is granted in the provincial court system.
But why there is a roll back, like province says federal, federal says province? What Canadians should get a message from you?
What we need to do as elected officials is to collaborate, because Canadians need to feel safe in their communities, and that's why we should not be blaming the other level of government. We should be working together to solve this problem. That's why our government convened the Auto Theft Summit earlier this year, and that's why I'll continue working on crime in the community with Minister LeBlanc, with Minister Virani, to make sure that our communities are safer.
refugees are getting, they are coming as a visitors on the airport and getting a refugee status, which is highlighted a lot. Final message, why we have all this of mess in the system and why our politician, minister, because a lot of hopes from you also, why don't we act fast?
Actually, you are seeing Minister Miller acting on immigration issues. He is also working on student visa problems to make sure that students are granted visas only when they have assurances of having adequate living conditions when they arrive. He is also making sure we're addressing the temporary foreign workers issues. So actually, Minister Miller is very strong on this file, and he's very willing to listen to the feedback of your community and communities across this country.
When you expect the final elections happening?
We have an election scheduled for October 2025, and I'm looking forward to running in the riding of Oakville.
So it will be a full term till October, or midway you see the elections?
That's my intention.
Okay,
Take
thank
care.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
What were your biggest challenges faced on your journey to becoming a member of parliament, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I think it is the system. It's really hard to know how to run for public office. I think we have at least one person in the room thinking of running in the next election. Right. And it's hard to understand how to do it. I'm a lawyer, my husband's a lawyer. We sat and we studied the rules.
Yes.
And we still had questions.
I'm a scientist, so I know only equations.
Right. And so all I'm saying is that there is every reason for A, person not to give up, and B, for everyone in the community to support you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community, because it does take a village. And I just will tell you a little story of my husband, who, he used to drive me around to the doors that I was supposed to be knocking on. And I'd say, look, I can't go out there again. I can't. It's too hard. Because I'd have to start off at the door, they'd say, who are you?
Yeah.
We don't know who you are. What are you doing? And I would say, like, I'm a professor at the University of Toronto, and I would like to represent Oakville in the next election. And I'd go through the whole thing, but it was hard.
Yeah.
And he would watch me walk up to the door, and I'd go like this. And he'd yell out the window, knock harder. And I knock a little harder, and he would not let me leave until I had made contact. And I'll just say, this was his Saturday afternoon. This was his Sunday afternoon. He did it because he believed in me. Ramesh Chotai came over to my house in a snowstorm to sit with me.
We want to know that story.
You remember? Gee.
Dr. Dubey, I heard.
Dr. Dubey and Ramesh Chotai came over in snowstorm.
Yes.
And, it was hard to get to Oakville, Ontario.
They did tell
They
me
did.
that.
And you say, I am a law professor, I don't know anything about politics.
So all I'm saying is it takes a village. Every one of us can do our part to support those who want to run for public office and encourage them to do that.
Okay, reflecting on your time as a Minister of Public Services and Procurement, what were the key lessons learned during the pandemic in terms of procurement and logistics?
Okay, so I'm just going to go back and paint the picture, right? So I then ran for public office through the nomination and won the nomination on the first ballot, and then had to go to the general election. This is it all within a 5-month period. Go to the general election, and I won that, and then I was the member of parliament. That's October 2019, and I breathed a sigh of relief and said, okay, I'm going to be a member of parliament. And then a few weeks later, I got a call from the prime minister to come and meet with him. And when I met with him, he said, I would like you to be the Minister of Public Services and Procurement. And I didn't know what that was. But I had practiced saying I would be so honored in case he asked me to take on a role. So I said I would be so honored. And then he told me a little bit about the role, and I left, and I was kind of, in shock. So I went and looked up on the website, what is the Minister of Public Services?
I only came to know after you became the...
Right. So, Receiver General for Canada, in charge of the government's contracts, Canada Post, those types of things.
Okay.
But nowhere on the website did it say COVID-19 pandemic procurement. And in fact, somebody said to me on the day of our swearing in, that was November 20th, 2019, the same day that my mother had passed away 5 years prior. And somebody said to me, look, don't you worry. No one is going to know who you are. You're going to be in the background. You'll never be on TV. You won't have to do
We
interviews.
saw you every day.
And so then the pandemic hit, and people started asking, well, do we have a procurement minister? And
Oh, yeah.
all of a sudden, the work that I was doing behind the scenes to order the
All over.
PPE and the rapid tests and the vaccines, with 7 vaccine contracts, diversified portfolio of vaccines, and we were the most vaccinated country by July 2021 in the world. That was all before I had served 2 years in government.